Frittata Plays has about Nintendo fanboys defend Nintendo's right to work your Switch. No, 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 no. Can't say I agree. I'm sorry, Nintendo. If that's the way you want to play things, uh, just put all your games up onto the PC. Have a little cartridge reader that can be sold as Nintendo official cartridge reader and send it out. By the way, Nintendo, I want you to listen. It is very easy. Everybody knows about the MIG switch. Use that same type of technology. Put a small micro SD card in there with the amount you need with the proper speeds type of micro SD card with the amount of space you need. Insert it in there, put an epoxy on it that has a label of Nintendo official seal etched into it that goes into a microchip that is also a decoder slash lock chip. That way we have our games on physical cartridges and you don't have to do this stupid keycard BS. I swear. The easier solution is the best solution, and they can't even come up with that.
Hop online and download just about any
emulator or game.
for free.
Yeah, but that's totally illegal.
Is it? I don't know.
See? He does illegal things with no remorse.
You know what's the funniest thing about the Nintendo Switch 2 is how it's the most criticized product you can see online, but also the most pre-ordered one. That's because a lot of people online that tell you this and that about the Switch don't actually mean it. But you know who does? Me. That's why you guys got me to 80k subs. And that's why you will help me get to 100k, so I can face reveal with my silver play button. Instead of pre-ordering Nintendo Switch
Silver
2s,
Play.
you should be pre-ordering Frittata's lawn service and telling me exactly when and where you would like me to mow your lawn. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button.
Quick question. Did he just say mown my lawn? What are you going to do to my lawn again? You're going to make it moan, huh? Right. Okay, Frittata.
Button. Let's see if it's actually possible to get such a mid-channel like mine to 100k. Give me a reason to tell my family they were wrong. And what's more is it's a Mexican family, so it will be the loudest argument ever registered on the decibel scale. Te dije que lo iba a hacer. Te dije, ma. Sí, pero no tienes un millón. ¿Qué te importa? No es nada. ¿Cómo te crees la gran cosa? Yeah, bro, I'm right, dude. You ain't nothing. 100k subs. I could do that. Y ahora ponte a cortar el zacate, si no te doy una buena. Bien dada te la voy a dar.
Emotional.
No, damn it.
Telling you, one day we're gonna be featured on Dr. Phil. Anyways, if you don't speak taco, ask people to
Too bad Jerry
translate that
Springer.
joke.
Too bad Jerry Springer had passed away. And the show actually ended. What, 20 years ago ish? Yeah. Has it been about 20 years since Steve, his bouncer Steve took over, and then that flew off of a cliff, and now you don't even need Jerry Springer. Everybody is doing the exact same damn thing, not on national television, but here on the YouTubes and the YouTube, Twitch, Kick, mostly on TikTok. A lot of it on TikTok. And other places you can post shorts. The only thing you're missing is just some type of... It's just people just yelling, Jerry, 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 Jerry.
For you. When it comes to Nintendo, there's not a single poor business decision they can make that will ever affect their success. Then again, Nintendo's not the only company who's reached this level of guaranteed success either. Several companies have been attaching more strings to their products by the year. And in spite of that, people still say, yes, buy now, think about the consequences.
I just
Year.
noticed something
Several
about this.
companies have
Take a look how, if you actually pay attention down here to these four videos, two of them in a little circle and other ones that have the green screen blackout on playing the game. Okay, I think, which game are they? Trying to remember. Take a look at this. All right, you're in the same area. You're way behind. I have no idea where you are. Yeah, this is Super Mario World 3 Yoshi's Island. Super Mario World Yoshi's Island, I believe. One of the Super Nintendo uh versions. Yeah, this is Super Nintendo, but the only one that's showing up here is her. I have no idea where they are, and this is a single player game. Well, it's a two-player game, but you each get your own turn. But I digress. And if you watch this down here, they're all choppy and out of sync.
been
I
attaching
don't
more
understand
strings to their
why.
products.
Yeah, I don't understand why that needs to exist. I mean, is it to see who was better, who could speedrun the level more? I don't know.
By the year. And in spite of that, people still say, yes, buy now, think about the
I
consequences
don't know.
later, complain about the consequences later, even though I'm one of the people that bought into this and made gaming a worse hobby. If that doesn't sum up the Nintendo fan base for you, well, don't expect me to drop any more IQ points to make it easier.
Is Cookie Monster wearing a wig? What is that? Bar soap, or is that supposed to be like Ray-Bans earbuds?
To understand.
No, seriously.
Well, don't expect me to drop any more IQ points to make it easier to understand. I've already eliminated enough brain cells with the nitrous. I need to save my remaining ones to make some content. Here is
Oh yeah, I remember. Whippets. Er, For those of you who are too young to remember these were the time. There was a time long ago, longer now than it seems, in the 2010s, I believe. A little earlier, could I could be deceived, where people would buy cans of whipped cream. And what would they do? They'd shake them up, flip them up, and then take in all the nitrous that was in there to get high. And to prevent mitigate this, to make sure that children weren't doing it, harming their few brain cells that they had usable for schools, they decided that they needed to make it where you could only purchase them for the ages of 18 or older. Now, practice is no longer something they do today, but it was something that was temporarily done, I think, for about a year. Still to this day, I understand and yet confused by it. Once the trend had passed, then they got rid of it. But trends do end up coming back. I I don't know what well, wow. What triggered this? Oh yeah, the nitrous galaxy gas here. That triggered me. Uh because it looks like that's a whipped cream nozzle type deal. Anywho, I will okay. Let's continue on.
Here's the thing about the Nintendo fan base, though, is they're all in agreement that they don't like what Nintendo is doing. I mean, that doesn't change the fact that they all locked in their pre-orders, but I mean, at least they're very vocal. I mean, yeah, it makes their rants pointless and meaningless, But it's better than nothing because the Nintendrones are on a whole other level. They are Nintendo fanboys who actually praise Nintendo for every poor anti-consumer business decision they make, and they cheer them on, asking for Nintendo to take away even more consumer rights.
If you try to mod your Switch 2 to illegally download Switch 2 games and Nintendo breaks your system, you deserve it. Stealing is not cool. It's not just Nintendo you're stealing from. It's also the third-party dev studios not getting paid for their hard work. I'll always be on the side of game developers being able to feed their families. Let's be real. Most people mod their consoles to bootleg games. Hopefully as technology continues to improve, this will be harder to do. I remember in college, everyone was illegally copying Dreamcast games, and this very well contributed.
No. What? No, what killed the Dreamcast was the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. The fact that Dreamcast actually did not have any way of preventing people from actually using their games, copies of their games on their system like PlayStation did, is on Dreamcast and Sega. They put out a system that was not ready. In addition, they had other issues, such as the controller how the controller was created. That thing was too damn fat. The double memory cards were cool, but they did not need, and I repeat, do not need the little mini games with them. It's a cool feature, but was highly overrated. But I do have to say, the graphics were amazing for the games. All 16 of them that came out. Uh, they didn't sell well because even though I remember some commercials, I know most people were getting hit hard at that time because there was a housing crash around the early 2000s. No, wait, this was about the time they arrived. Was that before 9/11? I'd have to take a look. Give me a second. What is the release date of the Dreamcast? Okay, 1998. They were competing uh with Sony at that point in time and Nintendo. So yeah, they really didn't have much to go on. Sony had a bigger library to start off with. Crash Bandicoot, Spiral the Dragon, a whole lot more. They even had Twisted Metal, some card games, a lot of things that were pretty good up onto their systems that were exclusive. It ended up becoming much, much bigger than Sega could do. And Sega, I believe, were mostly in-house gaming games, so they really didn't have extra studios at the time under their watch. And the amount of graphics that, if I remember correctly, the amount of graphics they used were spectacular graphics, even for the time being. But they could have waited, maybe, till the PlayStation 2 era where the computers were better on actually dealing with the graphic levels, but they were not able to keep up with the demand of needing newer games after people completed each one of them. The Sonic games kept them good for a while, the Pac Man game that kept them good, and a couple fighting games. There were a lot more, your typical sports games that were on every system. But nonetheless, they didn't exactly keep up with the times as they needed to. Also, without having some form of copyright culpabilities prevention, really sunk their ship.
Contributed to the downfall of a great system.
You make me want a lobotomy.
I got one too.
You can tell this guy has self-lobotomized himself with a Wii nunchuck. He made sure to really stick that thing in there and scrape all that brain matter and human functions out of himself. Because in order to shill that hard for Nintendo, you must drop your humanity itself. It's one thing if Nintendo wants to cancel your Nintendo account permanently because you didn't follow their rules or whatnot, but to outright brick someone's entire system, that is an unprecedented level of control over purchased products. No matter
According to user agreements, the PlayStation 4 and I believe the PlayStation 5 also have this within their system. Nobody was able to actually see that. If I remember correctly, that's what I saw in a previous video. So it does exist as a option, but Sony and Microsoft, even if they both had this ability, will not actually jump onto that bandwagon. Why? Because they don't want to. They know it would hurt their player base. They already see the ramifications of people realizing this because Nintendo said the quiet part out loud. Sony did not mention this. It's in their terms of their terms and agreement, terms of service. There we go. That it can happen. But you know, it is what it is. You know.
no matter how you see it, that should not be allowed.
Also, speaking of key cards or key games, game keys, I do believe PlayStation 3 started this. Xbox and PlayStation 3 kind of started this key game deal. Don't know if PlayStation 3 games are completely on their deals, but on their games, but they do require some form of downloading and online services. Not 100% sure if you can actually play the games right out, but we could find that out. I could, yes, definitely, since I already own them. We'll find out.
But could you imagine if Windows made it so that if you downloaded ROMs, all of a sudden it bricks your entire computer and you're never allowed to use it again? Who in their right mind could actually advocate for this? Everything that Nintendo's not allowing you to do, you can do on your Steam Deck, and Valve will not brick your handheld. This isn't something I have to concern myself with any single computer device I own, except for the Switch 2. So if I want to insert customized SIM cards that have a bunch of games installed on it, or I don't like any of the very bland themes Nintendo's finally releasing for this device and want my own, that can end in my Switch never functioning again. Hell, you can go get one of those modded HDMI TV streaming devices that are hacked with thousands of TV shows and movies on it. Plug that sucker right into your smart TV and not worry about Samsung or Sony or Vizio bricking your TV because you did so.
Or
I don't know
LG,
a single actual
Elements,
Nintendo
whatever.
YouTuber who would agree with this guy.
etc.
Because accounts like this usually don't even really play on Nintendo or are Nintendo fans. They just grift for Nintendo online for likes and clicks and engagement. Actual Nintendo fans definitely do not agree with the idea of letting Nintendo brick their systems. Now, if only they didn't buy the console, that would mean something, but that's a different discussion. See, in the world of hardware, Valve and Gabe Newell are like Steve Wozniak's Apple, and Nintendo is Steve Jobs' Apple. One believes in allowing you to be a fully modular open system. The other believes in an enclosed system that the consumer should not be allowed to tamper with. And that right there is the immediate difference between actual ownership and fake ownership. I can see the intrinsic value and consumer convenience, which is what, the Switch 2 is supposed to be. But what I don't understand is the harsh punishment for trying to get more out of what's already in place. Because people love to throw the word hacker around, because hacker can refer to several things, like someone hacking a game and cheating, but likewise somebody using a custom sim to try and boot a special unique tool into their Switch can also be considered a hacker, and the term is used negatively to refer to these people who, in my opinion, just have a basic consumer right to try and do what they want with their system that they purchased. And if people want to boot up their Nintendo Switch with more NES and Super Nintendo and GameCube games that they can get from an emulator instead of waiting for Nintendo to take a million years to get even a quarter of the games up on their Nintendo Switch online service, they should have every right to do so, and I don't consider that stealing. If you're not selling something, if something has been discontinued, hell, if it's not even an IP Nintendo owns, and especially if it's games from studios that don't even exist anymore.
Now, I can understand if Nintendo decided to buy the full game in its contour, ha- hold and control the rights of that game, then commission a third party manufacturer to be the ones that recreate the original games up onto newer model cartridges. And it is possible because we know how many third party cartridges are out there. I think that would be much better of a deal. The same thing goes for Sony. Now, if we could get at least one machine that has the wobble that it needs to create a perfect copy of a PlayStation game, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 game, something that is no longer being sold out on the market, and you could get a replica. These, and each one of them stamped on the chip, on the on everything that has everything that states that it is an official product, but it is a replica. And people would have to pay, higher costs for these replicas, instead of, paying like maybe 60, $70 for a replica of an old game, but game that has in a replica design up onto it is not as high quality on its outerwear and shipped out to you. In fact, they could actually just ship them out into like Blu-ray and DVD cases with an update modern version. So that case, let me show you guys. I actually can show you something. Let me go here to my eBay. Right here. Do do do. See. Oh, yes, I know. I have some weird. No, I want my watch list, not that. I'll look up some weird stuff. Yes, I'm after 1,000, 1,000 arms. Disc only. Disc one works. Disc two doesn't read. I do actually have a functioning disc two. I just don't have a functioning disc one. If I could actually get the money for that, that'd be great. I do love the fact that somebody had hand painted this glass, Mrs. Buttersworth. That is amazing. That's that goes into folks. No, we need the next one over. Some little things that I'm looking at. Big Mother Truckers. Ooh, that is. Oh man, that ended. That sucks. Gran Turismo 2, PlayStation 1 Black Label. Oh, that was complete, I believe. These Yu-Gi-Oh games I find fun. I used to own them. I wish I had them again, but Beast Wars Transmetals. That's a fun game. No, give me a second. It's somewhere. Is it all the way on page 4? Do I really have that much stuff I'm watching? Ah, repairs to my Game Boy Color. Right. Dual monitor stand. I do need that eventually. Ah, here we go. I'll edit out. But yeah, re-release the PlayStation 1 games into like a DVD style case like this. just open it up, pop it in. If it's one disc, we get the double disc DVD cases into it, the 4 disc DVD cases. Just redo them like this and have official Sony replica and release them. I believe. I believe I have like a little and I don't. Yeah. See, watch 4 disc. Oh, not DD disc. Yeah, there we go. 4 disc DVD case. You could easily get them like this, or you could get them like this. Simple. You could. I'm pretty sure they even have a 5 disc one for those games that have five game disc or 3, however many you need. Watch. You could get DVD disc case for whatever you need. 2-pack, 5 disc. Yeah. They could re-release the games, pop them into this thing, and voila. Disc 1, Disc 2, Disc 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 22 millimeter back. Easy peasy. They won't have the game manuals, unfortunately. They could sell those at a premium as replica game manuals that they could put into these things. Which honestly, a lot of people they would be elongated versions, but that'd be great. Just have one of those industrial printers. Top quality 5 disc. Yep. This one's a 27 millimeter, so that one's a lot thicker. Oh, there you go. Original 5 disc Blu-ray player game. They could do this here. The Blu-rays would have absolutely no game manuals, but they could actually do a Blu-ray version. Just have Sony printed on top. Whatever they need. These aren't very expensive, and you could always get some papers, a printer, get the exact modeling you need, which I do believe I have. I do have a template. That what I
Emulating
would have
said
to do with.
products on your device should not result in you getting your device bricked. It's pretty reasonable. Hell, the
I
potential
agree.
of the Switch 2 to capture the niche emulation market is there. Valve could render the Steam Deck irrelevant if they decided to let Nintendo Switch 2 be an open platform, but that's why the Steam Deck even exists, for those niche markets that
Right.
like to do those things. Those things that Nintendo is very hostile towards. To side with Nintendo on this is to side with the devil themselves. And that's because these Nintendo fanboys hate PC gamers. They hate that we can emulate what they're hoping Nintendo charges them for one day. And that's why they advocate so hard for Nintendo to continue shutting down ROMs, emulator sites, fan projects. They really want this utopia in their mind where Nintendo controls everyone and everything and every facet of your gaming experience. These guys are not.
They could actually probably destroy the secondary market, kind of, if they actually did create a on-demand print, if you would, of games. Have a little third-party studio actually have a on-demand game printout type of deal for officially unofficial versions that have all the coding. Because all this stuff can actually be stored up onto very small drives nowadays. It takes two, three, maybe 6 terabytes to store all the games out there, I'm giving some grace here. And just have them create them. I mean, take a look. GameCube. Nintendo could have where they could recreate GameCube games and just release them out in the wild. Or, but like I said, they would have to have the exclusive rights to the game 100% exclusive. And they could go in their code and remove any of the game studios that logos that were in there if they wanted to and just replace it with just standard Nintendo logo as part of their control over the rights. That these and it would be a great way of showing that this is a and just put Nintendo replica logos on it, you know? An official Nintendo replica type of deal. It wouldn't be that hard for Nintendo to cater to the fan base and also since they don't want to spend the money into it, have third party companies do it. You know, reach an agreement to them with them and like say, hey, we want to re-release some old products, but we really don't want to invest into it. If you take, we'll take a small purport. We'll take a small cut of this. The same goes for Xbox and Nintendo, Sony. I mean, if they decided to do something like this, this would be revolutionary to the secondary gaming market. But I highly doubt it. In addition, it would be strange to actually open up a PlayStation 1 game and see it silver on the back. They do still sell some old school games. I remember somebody seeing on their deal a PlayStation 1 game, bought it, and it was silver on back. That was just the black coating was nothing to do with piracy protection. It was all about looks. I mean, hell, as far as I know, they could probably throw it on onto a Blu-ray disc, which I don't think the Blu-ray discs are blue anymore. They're now silver again. I guess it was just too hard to keep up with the color blue. It was a good gimmick to get us started, right?
Against corporate greed. They just advocate for one specific company to be the one to control it all, and for the consumers to have no rights whatsoever. It makes no sense. It was smart by Nintendo to lock Switch 2 and require a launch day update. This is obviously a security measure for the launch of Switch 2. It will definitely change with later shipments of units that will come ready to play out of the box. Exactly how is it good for early previews of this device to not exist because it's locked? As a consumer, shouldn't you want there to be more information on the stability of the device, on what games work and which ones don't, on the quality of the titles, on the quality of the user interface and experience, the controls, everything? Just find out when it comes out. I mean, most people will do that. They'll just wait and find out. But I can't see how ensuring there is no reviews before launch of this device is good for consumers. It's so blatantly obvious it's Nintendo trying to take as much control and have as much say as possible and reduce consumer feedback. Hell, they practically put it in their terms of service that you can't file a class action lawsuit against them. It's clear as day these measures are put in place more so to protect the company itself and less about protecting the consumers. And that's the funny thing about these Nintendo fanboys. That's what they love. They love Nintendo swinging their dicks around, showing how much power and control they have. They get their power fantasy through the corporation itself, because in their real life,
isn't that Munchausen syndrome, living your life through somebody else? They might want to be checked into a mental institution to get that sorted out. The same goes for the Disney people.
they have no control or power over even themselves. See, but that's what I love, though, because these Nintendo fanboys, They love that Nintendo creates these closed-off ecosystems with no consumer freedom, and they despise the opposite. They hate that Steam Deck users get all the freedom with nearly none of the restrictions. They don't think it's fair. They see Steam Deck users booting up GameCube games at a far wider selection than Nintendo can provide, and their reactions are hilarious. If you know Jake Randall, he's got a video up showcasing the Nintendo GameCube library running through Emu Deck, and his tweet set the entire Nintendo fandom ablaze. They were pissed. They hate that we can do this. The Nintendo GameCube library is the reason I own a Steam Deck. Pirates should be thrown in jail.
PC's killed your dad and raped your mom.
How dare you not adhere to Nintendo's rules, you asshole? How could you? How could you not just wait for Nintendo to take 50 years to make all previous Nintendo games available on their service? How dare you not be patient? How dare you go out of your way to nab more GameCube games than Nintendo could provide? You're supposed to play GameCube on Nintendo devices. You should go to jail. Oh, I'm pretty proud of that one.
Oh, yes, yes. We should all do so willingly, right? I'm sorry, but the moment your console is no longer available and you are no longer making money from that console, it should immediately become free to the public. You should lose all licensing rights to it. That would make them have to copy each and every single game to each and every other console that they make, creating newer versions of old games over and over again. And also find out a way on how to keep their license of every game that's ever been made on their system. I got news for them. I don't think they can.
Now I'm kind of regretting I didn't just outright shotgun that beer. These guys are insane. They really believe a corporation should be allowed to jail you because you're not doing what they say you should be doing and doing it on their time and on their dime. If Nintendo could have their own way, they would outright make it a fee every single time you booted up a game. Hell, they would charge you each time you booted up the console.
I think every
It's clear
company
that when
would
this is
probably do
something
that.
you advocate for, you're in love with the corporation and not gaming itself. Because real lovers of gaming would advocate for allowing users to emulate whatever the hell is not being sold or hasn't been available for years. As video game preservation is incredibly important, and it's not a moral argument, games just not being lost in time is overall better for the industry. There's many ideas
Oh,
that people
yeah,
can always go back to.
definitely.
There are many titles that are encouraged to make a comeback that we've forgotten about over the years, and it gives incentive and reason for people to purchase hardware that can emulate these experiences. There is a logical reason for this to exist, and companies like Nintendo outright trying to shut it down and you advocating for them to throw people in jail for doing it is quite literally dystopian. Assuming this is illegal?
But it's fun.
No, it's not illegal. Well, at least not yet. That all depends entirely on if you Nintendo guys purchase the Switch 2 and give Nintendo the money to make it illegal. What we are seeing in that tweet there is a great example of what it feels like to have freedom. I have no idea why anybody wants to
Freedom.
bring up the law and their concerns about, are you breaking the law? Should you be able to do that? Bitch, I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want with games from a system that are over 20 years old at this point. Games, mind you, that are not available to purchase anymore.
Yeah.
What about the legality of it? What about the legality of it? What about the bitches you don't have on your dick? Well, now you don't need it anymore, since GameCube is coming to the Switch.
Bro! Oh my god!
That's a great line.
Yeah, except one problem. Nintendo only allows you to rent these GameCube games instead of purchasing them. Like, if you want to rent them, that's fine. But if you have to actively be a member of Switch Online and you're not even someone who plays games online, you're paying into a service that's in your way. You're probably the type that would rather buy a handful of GameCube games. And mind you, the selection is incredibly limited.
Why is he talking to me about this? Because I would be the type that I would actually buy the physical game.
At launch. Nowhere near the amount of games we see this guy scrolling through on his Steam Deck. Not even close. Hell, even the interface is better for it. On top of that, this support isn't coming to the Switch 1. I need to clarify that for people. You have to buy the Switch 2 in order to have access to the GameCube games via Switch Online. Yeah, this is actually something I found out recently, and it's still blowing my mind. Apparently, there's supposedly a limitation to the Switch 1's capabilities that make it so, but I say that's all bullshit. Nintendo intentionally did that to make people want to buy a Switch 2. It has something to do with storage capacity and the...
No. I mean, honestly, you could have just, I don't know, downloaded the games to the memory card that gets inserted to into the back of the Switch 2 and save the games there to be played offline, and it's only able to be used on the Switch. It's that easy. I don't know. It makes sense to me. Or, here's what they could do. Release Switch cartridges with the games on them. And have GameCube and Switch logos on it to state that this is a GameCube game on a Switch cartridge. That's something they could do. Hell, that's something they could do even now, considering, and download the emulator that's needed to play these games on the Switch. What a revolutionary ideal. It's like, I don't know, euphoria of good ideals. I mean, hell, they released, what was it? The remix of, what was it? Spyro Reignited and Crash Bandicoot, all three of their original games by PlayStation, onto one single disc and one cartridge for the Switch for all three consoles at the time. Yeah, it's possible. It can be done. They don't need that much storage space. And you could probably make them a lot cheaper because you don't have to get all the way up to that 65 megabytes of space you need.
The Switch 1 not being powerful enough, but again, I still think that's all completely bullshit. If they can cram Cyberpunk into a Switch 2 cartridge, hell, if they can cram The Witcher 3 into a Switch 1 cartridge, they can get 20-year-old Dolphin games to run on this thing.
Right?
You can dodge a ball. What?
But instead, they're saying go buy the brand new device where that will be available. Switch 1 owners, get fucked. Not only that, but the selection is very limited. So limited, in fact, you can't justify subbing to our service for it, but do it anyway. I still can't believe that this very small selection made Griffin Gaming jizz his own pants when he saw it live. Steam Deck would be useless without Nintendo emulators. It's so much inferior to the Switch 1, let alone the 2.
That sounds like a human. That's a humongous cope right there, dude. You are coping so hard, aren't you? Come on, man. Come on.
Nintendo guys, are they really think Nintendo games are the only thing Steam Deck users have access to. No, they got access to Xbox games, PlayStation games, Sega games, SNK games,
Sega.
Neo Geo, Commodore 64, DOS. Basically anything that has ever existed in the gaming world can be emulated on handheld PCs like the Steam Deck. I mean, just take a look at this other ignorant Nintendo fanboy. Typical Steam Deck user activity, to be honest. If it wasn't for Nintendo games, what would most of these people even be doing with that machine? See? What did they tell you? They know nothing outside of Nintendo. They really do believe Nintendo is the only gaming company on this planet. Not only that, but they don't seem to realize that PC games are just as popular, if not more, than Nintendo games. At its core, the Steam Deck is more oriented for playing PC games, but it can do just about every other game that has ever existed for any console. Without Nintendo, virtually nothing would change. You still have a much more impressive PS1 catalog and PS2 catalog, an Xbox
So true.
catalog, Dreamcast catalog, Genesis catalog, Atari catalog, PSP, TurboGrafx 16, Master System, and television, Atari Jaguar. My god, I'm not even close to the full list. It's hilarious that the only offense these Nintendo douchebags take is that you're playing Nintendo games on a not native Nintendo system. To them, that's heresy. That's a crime. You should be jailed. You shouldn't have the right to do that. Nintendo should make all the money and should.
Are they saying they're not pro-trans? Because that's what it seems like. Oh, it looks like a Steam Deck on the outside, but it feels like a Nintendo Switch on the inside. I mean, a GameCube. Is that what they're doing? These Nintendo fanboys saying it can't say that it's something else. Seriously, bloody hell, man, bloody hell.
Should only be allowed to rent you games and not sell them. And you should have less user freedom and less consumer rights and less access to games. That is the right way of doing things because it's legal. And therefore, what is legal is morally right. God, I can't think of a larger
Not
group
always,
of
but
gamers who don't
sometimes.
look out for themselves more than Nintendo guys. Just look at how jealous, spiteful, and envious they are at what Steam
Although
Deck
I am
users can do.
wanting
And the jealousy and the envy.
the Sonic Racers multiverse thing, that looks like it would be fun. I just need a PS5 for that, I believe.
It doesn't come from them not being able to do what Steam Deck users do. It comes from the fact that Steam Deck users aren't giving Nintendo money. How dare they? How insane is that? How insane is it to be so prioritized with a gaming corporation that you never once think to yourself, you know what, screw this company, I'm gonna go do what they do. No, you think to yourself, let's make it illegal. Let's ruin everybody else's fun because Nintendo needs your money. Nintendo is my childhood. They built me. They raised me more than my parents. Give them money until you die. They hate Steam Deck users and owners like me because they are fanboys. They don't believe anybody should be able to have more fun and freedom than them because in their minds, Nintendo is the ultimate experience, the ultimate company. Their little pea-sized brains have never explored gaming further than the gaming console literally built for children. But then again, that's why they act like children. This is the fandom that Nintendo has nourished. They have trained their consumer base to be this loyal to them. They understand that
Similar to how
the
Disney
average
did.
Nintendo owner. You have to forgive me for being a little more passionate about this video. It's just, I can't stand the Nintendo fanboys. These guys make everybody else's gaming experience their own business. To the point they outright want you jailed. But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go do exactly what Randall did in his video, and I'm gonna download the entire GameCube library, so that way every single Nintendo fanboy that dislikes this video can piss their pants and fuck off. There's nothing you can do about it. Eat a dildo. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. On the road to 100K. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.
Fritango sucks ass. You just hop.
All right, and that was Furtaga. All right, that's all, folks. Thank you guys for coming in for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitch.com, Kick.com, and X for all this and more. And I hope you guys have a nice day. Bye.